I welcome once again all the participants in week 5, where in this week we are going to discuss about community development in length and breadth. We have to understand the different approaches, different objectives, and why it is important to understand the community development. And so this is all about the content of this week. We are going to discuss about this all in this week. So why it is important to develop, to talk about and discuss about the community development. So to begin, we need to actually define two key concepts. One is community, another is community development. So as we have already discussed in 1 or 2 weeks altogether regarding the community, we have understand that community has a multitude meanings, from a geographical boundaries to the physical, to the people living, to the cultural, social, and all the aspect, virtual, as well as the community of the needs, or there are different types of the communities, as well as if you looking into the perspective of the present day world, right? So overall, if you summarize the whole aspect, so 3 things we have taken into consideration while we talk about the community. One is the functional aspect of the community, another is about the structural aspect of the community, and then the interactional aspect of the community. So these 3 elements are so important. So I mean, this is the gist of all the community aspects. As a social worker, we have to look at so structural, function, as well as the interactional aspect, where we have talked about the social capital, bonding, bridging, everything, communication, every aspect. So second aspect is about the development, right? So community, where we have to bring development, right? This is what the aspect of the community development. So development is what is also having several meanings, right? Including modernizations, to urbanization, to industrialization, to social or political transformation, to technological improvement, and for many it's economic growth. So again, development is, as once in one, I put some example when I discussed with the tribal community with the old man there. So I actually discuss about that development is so subjective thing. For me, maybe the development is something else, for others the development is something else. But here, as we talk about the community development, so which is having a larger goals, which encompasses all these elements together. So implicit in all of these, in the idea that development involves changes directed towards some particular social or economic goal, right? So here we are mainly concerned about the every aspect of particularly of the social and economic development of the community, right? So it's about the community and then development together, community development. Okay, so we have discussed in the last week regarding the general aspect of the community work. So as an important method of social work, or anyone, any volunteer or any philanthropist can do the community work. So community work, you could say, is more a generic aspect, or you could say anyone who is working in the community or any kind of the activity could be a community work, right? In general parlance, right? But in a professional term, from the social work perspective, it could be community work, it could be through the community organization. Later on we are also going to understand the difference between the community work, community organization, right? And social action as well. So community organization, community development, or you can do the community work through social action as well, right? So it is what, through different approach you can do the community work. So any kind of the activity which you have performed in the community could be considered as a community work. Again, there's a lot of debate around, is there any difference between community work and community development, community work and community organization and community development? So there are a lot of the everyone's argument behind this. So again, this varies from region to region, this varies from country to country, this varies from developing to developed nation perspective. All right. So community work is about to working within a community, with the community, with the help of the community members. So, and then community development is having the larger goals, and that goal is for the overall sustenance and development of the community. So later on, with the further discussion, you would be better understand the difference between this all. So I just had to make you clear why, because we have discussed so much regarding the community work, this approach and everything. Community work in totality, community work as an important social work methods, or as a work anyone can do as a volunteer even. But community organization is very specifically a professional approach. Community development is also a professional approach, which where the lot of the agencies and organization, non-governmental organization involved. It's mainly it's looking the things are involving intervening into the community from the macro approach, or macro intervention is through the macro approach, right? Just moving ahead. So with this slide, you maybe understand better the difference between community work and community development, or the, you could say, the relationship between these two. Definitely, because as like Dunham has rightly, I mean, according to Dunham, is not much difference between community work, community development, and community organization, as mentioned in H.Y. Sadeghi. But with a little with little aspects, there are some kind of the differences. But this differences is in the approach. Target overall is the same. Is about the development of the community, right? So as like in the USA, community work has been actually arbitrarily divided into economic development as well as the social development. But in the countries like India or any developing nation, where the economic development is part of the social development, means economic development is the part of the community development. Okay. So, but in countries like USA, where the community development is something different and economic development is something different, and this is what, because of the some historicity, if you look in, if you discuss, and we are going to discuss about this through the help of the some kind of the backgrounds, you will be more understand why this is so, why economic development is the part of the community development, not taken as separate aspect of the community development and the social development, mainly because just one word here. Countries like India, where they, majority of our members of the community members or the nation are in the poverty. So they are poor, they are underserved, they are disadvantaged economically, particularly economically, taking the terms in the economic terms. So they are poor, they are disadvantaged from the economic terms. So if you have to talk about the community development, the prime things comes then the economic development. Okay, so going back, so community work is typically focused on individual, while community development is strategic and often involves large scale planning. So as I have told you, this is mainly a macro perspective. The community development with the micro impact. Definitely any kind of the changes happen in any community, it is going to impact it to the individual level. Community work, whereas, is typically focused on the individual's perspective or individual's life through the micro aspect or through the meso aspect. So meso is major. It doesn't mean that in a community work you are not applying macro. Without macro, that we have already discussed how the social justice and human right is through this we can intervene into the community that are mainly a macro aspect or macro perspective. So if you're taking the individuals in the community work or the family in the community work, so that is what the meso aspect or the meso intervention. Community work seeks immediate support and empowerment, right? Community work is the target and then goal of the community work is not for a very longer period of the time. It's maybe of the immediate support and the empowerment, and through the empowerment that it definitely goes to the longer level of objective or the larger objective. Whereas community development aims for long-term improvements and sustainability, maybe through some kind of the infrastructure development, maybe through opening of some institutions. Like the banks and then schools and then colleges. Rather, community work is about involvement of the community or participation of the community, maybe in the building of the same institution and all. But that is what the community work. But here, please, my dear student, don't understand. Don't misunderstood that while you doing the community work, you are actually targeting for you are actually approaching to the community development. But if you are working for the community development, so that is also a kind of the community work. So it's a vice versa relationship. So again, if we put any kind of the definition, so these two aspects are actually overlapping to each other. I just show you, right? So if it is community work and this is community development, so maybe in the approach they are different. Okay, one may be going with some kind of the policies and programs and all, one another is going through some participation, through engagement, through sensitization and motivation, but the objective would be somewhere the same. Okay, so going back, community work seeks, next one is the often emphasizes social justice, empowerment and support for marginalized group. But community work is a more broader aspect where it actually includes both the haves and haves not of that area or the inhabitants of that particular area. So aims for a broader process that aims to improve economic, social and environmental condition in an community. So any kind of environmental development that is definitely is impacted to it's about the larger goodness for everyone belong to that community. May includes this community work, may includes organizing events, providing education, offering counseling and building networks among residents. So if you look into these kind of the activities, more about the micro aspect. So here often involve planning, policy making, collaborative efforts to enhance infrastructure and services. You just look into, if you're looking into these kind of the activities, you just could easily understand this is a more macro aspect. So can include economic development initiatives, urban planning, capacity building and creating sustainable programs. So particularly from the Indian perspective, community development is mainly about to development some kind of the infrastructure and any kind of the government program. All right, okay. Just now coming to the understanding the community development. So community development has been used especially in the decade from 1950s to 60s, very initial years of our independence. After independence, that is, to describe a comprehensive method of raising standard of living in which the emphasis is on the participation of people themselves with the assistance of the both governmental and non-governmental organization. That time definitely NGOs were not so much common in unit or there that time, but there are other kind of the CBOs were present. There was a lot of religious based organization were there. There are many voluntary activities were there. Gandhian constructive workers were there. So there are a lot that kind of, so here non-governmental organization don't understand only the NGOs. So anyone, any institute, any organization which is not governmental but participating in all sides, that is what is about the any civic society in general, you could say. So carried out under this approach was to dams, to the running of community centers, literacy classes. So if from looking into these, so the scope are so large. In India, the term community development means governmental efforts to bring about social and economic development, particularly in the rural areas, called as the rural community development. If it is in the urban area, it could be called as the urban community development. If it is for the slum, could be called as slum development. Moving ahead, community development, in fact, was seen as a movement to promote better living for the whole community with active participation, if possible, at the community level. But if that initiative has not been taken by the community, then the making use of certain kind of the techniques, tools to arouse and stimulate the community participation to secure more active, and enthusiastic response for that movement. So any kind of the movement, could be considered as when they are participating by the community. So it is actually giving more positive outcome, right? So community development ranges from small initiatives within a small group or to a larger initiative that involves the broader community. For example, Chipko movement or any such kind of the movements could also be part of the community development that actually arose and stimulate the members to come forward to save their environment. So that is one example. Apart from there, if you take the example from the government side, what the government has taken the initiatives like the CDP community development programs has been actually introduced during that period only. I mean, definitely it goes beyond the 60s. It was around in the 1970s or 75. So this is what the community development actually is the scope area. So community development not only concerns the physical realm of the community, but also the social, cultural, economic, political, and environmental aspects of as well, involving from the original needs-based emphasis to one that is more inclusive and asset-based. So here, originally the community development was mainly concerned about the need-based, means if there is a need of any kind of infrastructure or the school or the roads that has to be incorporated into that, or it could be the asset based, or it could be any cultural, economic and political aspect, means it could be a abstract, it could be it's about the any physical aspect or physical developmental aspect, right? So just moving ahead, as per the Hamilton, defined community development as a planned and organized efforts to assist individuals to acquire the attitudes, skills and concept required for the democratic democratic participation, the effective solution of as a wide range of community improvement problems as possible in the order of priority determined by the increasing level of competence. So actually Hamilton describes community development as a structural and deliberate process. See, structured deliberate process aimed at improving, empowering individuals within a community. So according to him, community development is a long-term empowerment process that builds skills, attitudes necessary for self-governance and effective collective social problems. It also focuses and actually it focuses on the how to enhance the attitudes and skills towards the development of or for the competence of the community, right? Next is about the, as you look into the Ferguson and Dickens definition, so community development is asset building that improves the quality of life among residents of low to moderate income communities, where community are defined as neighborhood or multi neighborhood areas. So as you look into the history of social work, so there how it has been emerged and developed, so the lot credit goes to the neighborhood development programs, neighborhood development and all. So here community development could be a few neighborhood development or to a many neighborhood development, means development at a larger scale. So if you look into this definition, so focus actually on the community development as a process of asset building. So this is what the difference. So Hamilton's definition is actually emphasized on the structured and deliberate process, while Dickens and the Ferguson definition actually emphasizes on the community development as a process of asset building. All right. So so this is through this asset building, more inclusive development and resource focused development could be there, and focus would be more on the resource focused, right? So community development is a process where community members come together to take collective action and generate solution to common problem. Community development ranges from small initiatives to the larger initiatives, right? So both definitions view community development as a means to empower individuals and improve collective well-being. Hamilton focuses more on the personal growth and democratic participation of individual, whereas Ferguson and Dickens emphasize asset building and resource allocation. Okay, so for a structural improvement. So together these perspectives underline the effective community development is both about building people's capacities to participate democratically and enhancing the community's tangible resources. So empowerment as well as the resources once come together, so we could think about the community's overall development. Next definition is about the Kenny and Canners has defined that community development is a holistic approach grounded in the principles of empowerment, human rights, inclusion, social justice, self-determination and collective action. So this definition actually highlights the community development as a value-driven and inclusive approach where it includes everyone, that's why I have just mentioned in bracket, to reduce the inequality, right? So the holistic nature, it emphasizes that true development should consider the whole person and the entire community, reducing inequality and enabling sustainable improvement and sustainable development, including everyone who was earlier excluded from any kind of the development and participation. So as the Green and Hens defined, the community development is a planned effort to build, assets. So again, this Greens and Hens definition is about the building asset, as the Dickens and the Fruxen has talked about. So this particular definition, if you're looking into it's about the, again, strategic and asset building process aimed at, community development is about building these assets to ensure that residents have the resources they need to lead a better life. For example, in the community, if there is no road, the development became so difficult for those areas. So any community which is well connected through the roads, well connected through the transport system, so that the kind of the growth that those community witness are much better, much higher compared to those communities which is not well connected through infrastructure like the roads and then transport system, and then not connected with the market. So every kind of the infrastructure and then asset building is important for the overall development. So one way we are talking about in a community work, the community participation, human rights, and then we have to look into the any kind of the how the deprived communities is not being included into the developmental path. So social justice is actually the agenda which talks about the inclusivity and to reducing the reducing the inequality. So at the one hand, this is important for the community development. So any kind of the community work that supports the community development, and community development with the larger goals, particularly the countries like India, with the infrastructure development, asset development, resource development, and then enhancement of the resources, modification in the resources or the assets of the community, both come together. So that gives the better result for the development of any community. So underlying the diversity of definition, this all, so it is the community development, could we say that as a process, community development is totally a process where the planners plan the kind of the strategies, and then first to research and then develop the strategies and first to develop the policy, and then accordingly strategies, and then strategies of the implementation. So overall, such as the technical assistance, self-help, and conflict approaches. So through any process, this is the part of the community development. It is as a program, particularly the countries like India. So we have seen that community development from the program perspective or the governmental program perspective. So specified activities such as housing construction, adoption of the agriculture innovation, implementation of recreational programs. So these all could be the part of community development. It is also as an outcome, the desired end result of change, that is such as more employment, better housing, better access to health, better access to water, and sanitation, civic engagement. So these are the wider outcome of the goal of the community work. So it is also as an outcome has to be taken as. So as an ideology, community development is also kind of the ideology, right? So to reconstruct the social reform, normative and economic order for desired ends. So as community development taking the help of the community work, or the vice versa, or it is both are similar for by many scholars. So if the both are similar, so definitely we cannot exclude the idea of reconstruction of social and normative economic order for desired ends. So here community development many a times usually being taken as the economic development through the infrastructure development and asset development. So let's talk about the objectives to the community development. This is the last aspect, the last point to be discussed today in today's session. So objectives of community developments like promoting social equity, empowering community members, enhancing economic opportunities, improving quality of life. So promoting equity, social equity, we have discussed while we discuss about the social justice. So ensuring all community members have equal access to any kind of the resources, opportunities, and services regardless of their backgrounds, whether they are from the haves or the have-not community, poor or rich, right? Empowering community members. So that is what encouraging individuals to participate in any kind of the decisions that affect their lives, fostering a sense of ownership and control of their own local issues. So that is what empowering community members. So this is another very important objectives of community work. That's of the community development. It's about the objective of community development as of the community work. Enhancing economic opportunities. So as I have already told you that in particularly India, where the community development holds the economic development as its integral part, right? So community development is the larger aspect where it takes the community development as an integral part and the major part of the overall community development, and along with the cultural and then social and all. So cultural, social, political, every aspect. Even the political development is also one subset of the community development. All right. So particularly in India, we cannot go against of any kind of the don't bring or pull the community into any kind of the conflict against the policy and all. It's better to do the advocacy and to make them sensitize and make them aware about their rights, and then political information they have to, how much they have the rights, what are their duties, how they can ask their own rights. So these are all very important tools. These are very important aspects of the community worker or while doing the community development even, right? So to bring a more positive and participatory ends, right? So next is improving quality of life. So this is what addressing factors like housing, health, education, infrastructure development to raise overall living standard of any community member. That is what the improving quality of life. So we all can understand that living in a good house, accessible to the drinking water facilities, accessible to the health facilities, having good infrastructure, connected to the modern technologies. So this all, if any community is having, so we can think about that. We can we can be very sure that that community is that perspectively they are developed. Now forget about right now is about the conflict within the community and then the individual issues and all, but that is always the part and parcel. So for that, another method could be applied in that period of time. But here overall the objective of the community is the improving the larger aspect of the quality life, right? So with the good infrastructure, with the good housing condition and accessibility of the kind of the resources, and most with the social equity where everyone could be participate equally, right? Next objectives are like building strong social networks, sustainable resource management, fostering resilience, encouraging civic engagement. So building strong social network. So as I have told that three aspects of the community is taken into consideration. One is structure, then function, then interaction. So this interaction is what is about the social networking, right? So building strong networks, that is what is strengthening the connection among community members and fostering the cooperation and mutual support. And one thing more here, networking within community is totally very important to enhance the cohesion, but networking with other communities, networking with other policy makers, networking with other kind of the agencies, networking with any kind of the governmental programs, these all are important for the development of any community. So networking within community and networking with other communities are both equally important. Then next is about the sustainable resource management. It's about the promoting the responsible use of local resources to ensure long-term environmental and social well-being. This is what the sustainable resource management. So it's about the enhance the local resources to ensure the long-term environmental and social well-being. They are always go with this assumption and always go with this kind of the confidence that the resources are there in the community. It's only just to identify those and use them, modify them maybe, and then make it more usable and acceptable. And if it needs some kind of the modification, do modification. If it needs some more addition, so you could add something. If it not comes under your arena, so at least you have to do the through any kind of the networking with the other organization, you can do that. So again, community development is the approach which has been done by the policymaker by through some kind of the program. So you can motivate, you can ensure, you can facilitate, you can empower, you can educate the community member regarding different and towards different kinds of the policy and programs. That is what actually the resources of the community. Next is the fostering resilience. That is what developing community skills and resources to prepare for respond to and recover from challenges. including economic economic downturns, maybe during time of the natural disasters, or any kind of the social issues, or any kind of the conflicts within the community. So these are the some common things which has always been there in every community. So maybe at a larger scale or maybe at the smaller scale. So the developing this kind of the resilient, this kind of the skills, or this kind of the closeness within a community member, that help them out in actually coming back, or or fight back at the time of emergency, or at the time of any kind of breakdown of the community. Next is encouraging civic engagement. So supporting active involvement in community issues, including participation in decision making process, volunteering and engaging in community improvement projects. So that is what about the improving civic engagement. That's totally about the participation, right? The maximum the number of the members, people or the community members, they would participate in any kind of the activity, that you are actually introducing any kind of the programs to the community, and they are participating, and they are engaging into that. So it's what that the development would be more easy. So this is another very important objective of the community development, to enhance, to encourage the civic engagement. Taking example of any kind of the programs that needs the civic engagement, even the ASHA program, it's a program of NRHM, that's again they need some kind of the members from their own community, or the particularly the bahu of that community. So she should be participated and act, take the very important role of the ASHA, so to make that maternal health of that community better. So that is what this is what civic engagement of that those women from those community, for the overall health development of that community, right? So there are many examples, say likewise. So fostering resilience, there are many examples like that. For the community, there are a lot of the programs through which they can develop the skills, particularly in the areas of there is a lot, the cases of floods are there, and in the areas where a lot of the environmental issues is a regular nature. So the kind of the skill has to be, there are many programs is going on, and coming under the including under the disaster management. So to equip the community members at the time of the at the time of the any kind of the crisis, they have to fight back, resilient, develop the resilient. So that is very important. So programs is of the government, training to the members is important. Is another objective. Sustainable resource management is also like promoting the responsible use of local resources. Any kind of I have already given the example of Chipko movement, so that how they can be develop this kind of the this has shown in our history that how the women and the male of that area, they come forward and take this responsibility to save and secure their environment. So these are some very important objectives of the community development. Social equity, right? So maybe through the reservation, or there are many other programs like, so through this the equity could be prevail, empowering community members through providing some kind of the training programs. There's continuously a lot of the programs is been going on, is been facilitated by many programs. So that is one another very important objective, and enhancing economic opportunity. So these are the certain programs. While developing any policies or programs for the bringing community development, the policy makers always keep in mind. And being a social worker, also we have to look into these objectives while introducing, while as an agent, social agent or the change agent at the time of the bringing those programs and policies for the community development. Thank you so much for your participation and listening to this today's session.